Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are all about high-impact shortcuts. We're skipping past, the introductory chapters and opening the master toolkit of advanced musical composition.
Exactly.
If you've ever wanted to really understand the language of the late Baroque and the kind of theory that's usually saved for the end of the semester, this deep dive is your express lane.
That's absolutely right. We're not here for a surface-level glance. We're moving into what I'd call architectural music, the kind built by giants, Bach, Handel.
Right.
And to recognize that level of complexity, you need precise definitions. But more importantly, you have to understand the purpose behind them. Think of it like getting the blueprints before you even walk into the concert hall.
So our mission is pretty clear. We need to get fluent in 5 crucial areas. These are the technical pillars of advanced theory. We're going to start from the ground up with texture, then how composers manipulate time.
Add color with ornamentation.
Right, and then tackle the big one, the fugue, before putting it all into context with the Baroque dance suite.
It's a great roadmap. And if we're building, say, a cathedral of sound, we have to lay a rock-solid foundation first. So let's start there with the bedrock contrapuntal definitions.
Let's do it. We can start with 2 techniques composers use to layer and build texture. They can even happen at the same time, but they have completely different effects. First up, the canon. What exactly defines this? It gives music that feeling of perpetual motion.
The canon is really the definition of strict musical imitation. It's a compositional technique with a strict copy of the entire theme.
The entire theme, so not just a little motive?
No, the whole idea. It appears in another voice, usually just a little bit delayed. It's this relentless line-for-line echo. The first voice sings the theme, and the second voice is always trying to catch up, but it never quite does.
It's hypnotic when it's done well. Our source material points to examples like Schumann's Little Canon. You can hear how that exact imitation creates this incredible sense of unity.
It does. Now, if the canon is all about that horizontal motion, that imitation, then pedal point is about creating vertical stability in spite of that motion.
The anchor.
Precisely. The pedal point or organ point is a harmonic ankle. It's defined as a sustained or repeated note. And while it's usually in the bass, the name suggests the long pipes of an organ, it can really appear anywhere.
And the genius part is that while that low note just holds steady, the upper voices keep changing chords, changing harmonies right above it. It creates this incredible tension.
Yeah, the harmony wants to move, but the bass note just refuses to budge.
So that refusal is what gives it its power.
Absolutely. You hear it used so expertly in pieces like Bach's Invention No. 4. That steady bass is the foundation, and the upper voices can do their graceful acrobatics, but the whole thing is grounded. So there's our bedrock.
Okay, so once we have this incredible texture set up with a canon or a pedal point, how do composers keep a theme recognizable when they want to change the mood or the pace? This brings us to rhythmic transformation.
This is such a beautiful way for composers to get unity without it becoming boring. They don't have to invent a whole new theme. They just put the one they have into a kind of time machine.
Let's start with the stretching process, augmentation. What is that exactly?
Augmentation is simply the process of doubling the rhythmic value of a theme. So if your original melody was a string of quick quarter notes,
they suddenly become long, dramatic half notes.
Exactly. It's the theme, but in cinematic slow motion.
And the opposite of that would be diminution.
The flip side of the coin, yeah. Diminution is having the rhythmic value. So those same quarter notes suddenly become these zippy eighth notes. The theme just speeds up, sometimes really drastically.
Okay, so that raises a question. Is augmentation just making the music slower? Or is there a deeper reason to use it?
Oh, it's so much deeper. If it were just a tempo change, the theme would sound the same, just at a different speed. But when a composer uses augmentation within a piece where the overall tempo hasn't changed, it totally changes the character and the weight of that melody. It allows you, the listener, to recognize a single theme appearing in these different forms. It often forces this moment of realization, like, wait, I know that melody, but why does it sound so heavy all of a sudden?
It's a powerful tool. You get variety and continuity at the same time. The theme is still there, but the energy is completely different.
Now that we have our structure and our temporal scaffolding, let's add some color, some expressive depth. These are the advanced melodic devices. Basically, notes that aren't technically part of the chord, but add this immediate tension.
Stained glass windows for our cathedral.
I like that, yes. And we have 3 specific terms we need to nail down. They're all non-harmonic, but they're so different based on when they arrive in the rhythm.
Okay.
First, there's the softer dissonance. Anticipation. This is the presentation of a chord tone right before the actual chord is played.
So you hear the note from the next chord, but it arrives a little bit early.
Exactly, and it resolves gently when the rest of the harmony catches up. It's a predictive kind of sound.
Then we've got that quick, crushed note that's so common in the late Baroque, the Acciacatura.
Right. This is a very specific keyboard ornament. It's a non-chord tone, usually a step below the main chord tone that you add to the chord and then immediately release.
It's played so fast you barely hear it.
Almost instantly. It sounds like a little dissonant blip that just vanishes.
Now, contrast that with the Appoggiatura.
Yes, the real harmonic hit. Unlike Anticipation, which is early, the Appoggiatura is a non-harmonic tone that lands directly on the beat. This is where the dissonance gets rhythmically emphasized. It hits with the chord, creating tension that absolutely has to resolve.
And this is where the sources get really specific, because how you perform an Appoggiatura has rules, doesn't it? Especially in Baroque and classical music. You have to know how much time to give that tension.
That's the nuance that separates, a good performance from a great one. When you're playing an Appoggiatura, if the main note is just a standard rhythm, you usually divide the time equally. But you have to watch out for dotted notes. If the target note is dotted, the Appoggiatura gets a full 2/3 the value. It creates this heavy, expressive lean into the note.
And what about in compound meters, like 68?
It's actually simpler, but just as emphatic. The Appoggiatura receives one full beat. Knowing these rules tells you exactly how much weight the composer wanted for that moment of tension. It's all about feeling the rhythmic power of that dissonance.
Okay, let's move to the completed dome of our structure. The fugue. This is the absolute apex of polyphony. You've got 3 or more voices entering in this planned, systematic imitation. It really does require its own vocabulary.
It does. And if you can define these terms, you can analyze almost any work by Bach. The entire piece revolves around one central idea. The subject. That's the main theme.
And when that subject is restated in a different voice, that's the answer. But our sources point out a really critical distinction here between a real answer and a tonal answer.
Yes, this is key. The real answer is pretty straightforward. It's an exact transposition of the subject, usually up to the dominant key. A perfect photographic copy.
But the tonal answer is different.
The tonal answer is adjusted. It's a retouched photograph. The transposition is changed just a little bit melodically or harmonically so the music can get back to the home key smoothly. It keeps the harmony grounded.
And supporting all of this is the counter subject. This isn't just random accompaniment, right?
Not at all. It's a specific, recurring secondary melody that plays alongside the subject or answer. You'll hear it again and again throughout the piece.
So the opening section where all the voices come in one by one, that's the exposition.
Right. The exposition introduces the subject and answer in all the voices. But once that's done, the composer needs some breathing room, a way to shift keys, and that leads to the episodes.
Episodes are sections without the main subject, right?
Exactly. They're used specifically to modulate, to help the music slide into a new key before the subject comes back in.
And finally, this is where it gets really dramatic. Stretto.
Stretto. This device is often saved for near the end of a fugue. It's the moment when the entrances of the subject start to overlap.
So instead of waiting for one subject to finish before the next one starts?
They just pile up on top of each other. The structural purpose is profound. The composer is creating this sense of manic urgency, an inevitable conclusion. All the voices are rushing to the finish line, and it signals the end is near.
Wow. Understanding that really helps you hear the emotional arc of the whole piece.
It really does. And to complete our picture of the Baroque context, which was roughly 1600 to 1750, we have to look at the forms that housed all this complexity. The dance suite was a fundamental structure.
A collection of movements all in the same key.
And it wasn't just a random playlist of dances. There was a very conventional, required order that created an arc of energy. You really have to memorize the 4 standard movements that anchor every suite.
Okay, let's run through them. Where do we start?
We begin with the Allemande. This is a moderate 44 dance, German in origin. You should listen for its short, upbeat, and its semi-contrapuntal texture. It sets a dignified, often complex tone.
Next up is the Courante, or the current. The name itself signals a duality.
It does. The French Courante is often tricky, complex in its meter and texture. The Italian Courante, on the other hand, is usually a quicker, lighter dance in a clear triple meter.
Then comes the emotional core of the suite.
The Sarabande, always a slow triple meter, very dignified. It's often characterized by this deliberate heavy accent on the second beat. It's the expressive heart of the work.
And to finish the standard set, after that slow, thoughtful saraband, you get a rush of energy with the jig.
Yes, the jig. It comes from English jigs. It's usually in a compound duple meter, like 68, and it almost always uses dotted rhythms and, fittingly, a tight fugal texture, a very spirited and complex finish.
So those four, almond, courant, saraband, jig, are the anchors.
They are. And composers would often insert optional movements between the saraband and the jig. They could play around a bit there. The sources often list things like the minuet, the bourrée, the gavotte, even the polonaise or an air.
This has been a true masterclass. We've moved fast, but we've really grasped the technical pillars of advanced theory and Baroque compositional language. You now have the definitions for texture, time, ornamentation, and even the complex structure of the fugue.
And we connect that back to the bigger picture.
Yeah.
The whole Baroque period really defined itself through this kind of methodical complexity. You have the polyphonic texture, all that ornamentation, and the use of terrace dynamics. The emphasis was always on this meticulous structural design.
And that rigorous, almost mathematical approach to composing, it stands in such stark contrast to what came next, the classical era.
Oh, completely. The classical period stripped away a lot of that density. It favored clear, singable melodies, homophonic texture, and used simple, repetitive patterns like the Alberti bass for accompaniment. You now have the vocabulary to hear that fundamental difference.
It's a huge shift.
It is. And it raises an important question for you to think about as you listen. Since we know the fugue represents the peak of Baroque polyphony, a strict rule-based process, what modern musical form from the 20th or 21st centuries, characterized by atonality and 12-tone rows, relies on similar methodical processes, using strict rules like inversion and retrograde to build its own intricate structures?
That's a great question to leave us with.
The reliance on that kind of mathematical rigor connects the compositional masters of the 17th century directly to the most advanced concepts in modern music. It's a fascinating through line.